Welcome into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. This is the Leaf Hour edition of our program. 9 games on tap. Always fun when it's game day of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Austin Mackey, Jake the Snake Schultz with you for the next 2 hours. Toronto Maple Leafs welcome in the Florida Panthers for their second matchup of the season. The first one didn't go so well.
No.
Remember that score?
The score was 5-1 in mid-November.
5-1.
Couple of empties, though, maybe, Sammy?
I feel like it was a closer game than that, but I mean, when was it?
Yeah, like November 17th.
Yeah, it doesn't exist to me anymore.
Yeah.
Leafs
a long time
It's in the
ago.
cloud.
Leafs might feel a little better coming into this one, especially watching Florida maybe come down to earth a little bit, blowing a 2-0 lead in the third period to Boston Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Or is that wishful thinking?
No, I mean, that's a good thing. But the previous 4 games to that loss, they played 3 playoff teams, pretty good opponents, and they allowed 1 goal a total over those 4 games. So defensively, they've been extremely good prior to losing 3-2 to Boston. So, yeah, they're still doing a lot of things well, I would say. The other bright spot, though, is no Ekblad, no Marchand, no Tkachuk.
Yep.
So you would think that takes some of the bite out of the Panthers a little bit. That's positive.
And where are we, Sammy McKee, on Chris Tanev coming into tonight's game?
Would we like to go to the coach to get his extremely detailed update on him?
Very much so.
Okay, let's play that, please.
Clippers Clipper
Clip
1.
What's Tanev's outlook for tonight?
Game time decision.
Okay.
You can't get 3 words out faster.
Give that a decision. Yeah.
I think,
Can I put words in your mouth?
well, yeah.
All right. Here's Sammy's words. If he's a game time decision, he shouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
He's not good enough to be back.
It was only, 3 or 4 days ago where it was probably not going as fast as we'd like or as expected or...
It was before the Utah game.
Yes, it was. That there was a little bit, and this was Craig Berube basically telling us that there might have been just I dare use the word setback, but a slower progression than they were comfortable with. So I'm with you. Like, as much as we think it's a big game, and it is,
Yeah.
you cannot jeopardize this guy.
Yeah.
You better be 100% sure that he is good to go here and can take some. Yeah, he might have to take a few hits tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've played with a ton of guys who got their shoulder taped before literally every game. You know, it's just like once it starts, once you've got a tear or a strain or whatever, it's not one of those ones that just like, and the bone is healed. It just is always susceptible.
And the part of this that really is somewhat concerning and potentially infuriating if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, we have evidence this very season of a decision that was made very similar to this, where Austin Matthews was banged up and he had been in and out of the lineup. This was post his trip to Germany. And he came in that night against the Buffalo Sabres, where there was a game time decision. All of us sat around here and said, really, we're game time decision in December or November or whatever it was. And then in that game, I forget who it was, cross-checks him right in the back, and he misses 6 more games right after.
Yeah.
We've seen this happen already this season with an important guy for the Leafs. Like, I understand the gravity of this game. And don't get me wrong, it's as big as a regular season game you can have in March. But boy, you better be really sure that he's ready to rock with Sam Bennett breathing down his neck when he dumps the puck in.
Well, I think the point you make right there is the one we should talk about, which, how big is this game? Because, you know, it comes down to whether you think the division is must have. If it's not that big a deal, we do have the Max Domi clip, which I think we should play, where Domi clip 1 here, where he doesn't think it's that big a game.
You can, I don't know if play the clip and then we'll, Domi clip, please. Austin.
We don't.
it doesn't matter to us. We were just trying to beat every team we play against, and every game is just as important. So focus day by day and game by game, and good test tonight against defending champ. So it's going to be a fun one.
So that's in response to whether he's concerned about the race for the Atlantic Division title. That S doesn't matter to us.
I don't get that he's downplaying how big of a game it is, because he does talk about a good test and Stanley Cup champion. So it just sounds to me that he wants to protect a bigger picture here than just focusing on this one game. So
okay,
that's to me. It's just it's a protection. Like you can actually have a great game and lose. You could.
Right.
I don't think that he's taking away the gravity of how important the game is.
My reaction to it is not based on Domi or what Domi's saying in this instance. It goes back to years of watching Keefe. And we do have I don't even want to say the advantage, almost the disadvantage of having been here for this last 9-year run, where Sheldon Keefe for years, he'd be a big game and he'd say, well, we're more focused on we play. We're more focused on the result. We're more, the guys, they kind of felt like they downplayed everything. And you wanted there to be some games with some stakes.
Yeah.
Where by the time you get into playoffs where you can't deny their stakes, all 82 games, you haven't played a game you said mattered. It's like, I think it's okay to see tonight matters.
In all honesty, though, I do believe that there's a sense of protecting that if it doesn't go well, it's not the end of the world. And
yeah, okay.
So to me, it's like, well, we had this big game. We lost 5-1, and now where do I go with my comments? We pooped the bed.
Yeah, but
right?
that's okay.
Is it
it's
okay?
to fall short of something and be like, we need better next time.
Yeah.
It was a big game and we failed. Next time we can learn from it.
Okay, I do see a side of that, but I just think that it might be a little too early for that, especially that you play them 2 more times.
Yeah, that does.
So you could lose tonight and win the next 2. So let me ask you, out of the 3 remaining games with Florida, like, do they need 5 out of 6? Is 3 out of 6 okay for you? Are we going to read into these 3 games starting tonight as difference makers on how we think this will end up being in the playoffs?
I think those are great questions. Are they if 1 game in hand, 2 points back? So they could conceivably, here you got the standings up on the screen, they could conceivably split the points with Florida, go 3-3.
3-3.
Or however that would end up working out with overtimes and stuff. But they could split the points and then make up the other 2 points along the way. They can. But, this is the opportunity to make them lose. It's 4-point swing, right? You have the opportunity to make immediate gains without having to do it in your other games. And it's setting this scene, setting the table for us versus you and the potential playoff matchup.
Are you reading into starting tonight on if the Leafs could knock them off in a 7-game series?
For sure. I think you'll always have the caveat of worrying about what happens when the Leafs in the playoffs. I think that's always going to be there. But like you said, the last matchup was in November.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first chance that you've got to look at them in a really long time here. And like you said, they have 3 matchups before the end of the season, including tonight. This is a real time to, quote, not to go full Shoresy here, but set the tone. Like you have to show that you're not going to back down from these guys, that they're the champions. You know that. And you want to show that you belong with them.
Well, so you are downplaying it.
No, I'm not downplaying it. Me personally, I think it's a wonderful opportunity tonight to reset your confidence. Like a lot of things haven't been looking very good for the Toronto Maple Leafs the last little while, including blown leads here.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far we need to go back to find a solid, convincing 60 minutes. And I'm not sure if that's even possible tonight. But
has they had one since coming out of the break?
Yeah, good question.
In Carolina, Chicago, I guess they're okay, but it hasn't been convincing, really.
Good question.
Thank you.
But in saying that, finding a way to beat them in regulation tonight would go a long way for them, I think, moving forward, especially going into whenever they play next.
I think that's great framing. Reset your confidence and, sort of establish, I asked you yesterday, what is their game?
Which is,
let's find it.
I do find a Craig Berube clip on getting away from their identity. So once again, what do you think is their identity, and what will it look like to beat Florida tonight?
So we established that they are a dump and chase team, that they are pretty good at it compared to a lot of teams. That's something they need to do better is forecheck. But also I think their identity is unequivocally, if you look around the league, top heavy. They need the top guys to be awesome. And, Matthews we've talked about quite a bit, hasn't quite been there. Marner's game's taken a little dip maybe, compared to an unbelievable start to the season. But there's more there. Nylander, I think for you, in talking to you, you don't think he's...
To me, I really believe that he could dominate a lot more with his skill set, for sure.
So that's part of the identity. So can everyone dump and chase? Can the top line dominate? Can you get the saves? I think, that's what we're waiting to see. Why don't we go to Craig Berube in clip 3 and what he thinks?
The last handful of games, I think we've gotten away from our identity a little bit in terms of putting pucks in deep and forechecking and going to work. So we're trying to get that dialed back in here and play that north-south game.
South it is.
Listened to our show yesterday.
Yeah, he clarified what our identity is. That's handy.
And the other thing for me, just way too much time in their own zone.
Yeah.
Broken plays, bad passes, and then counterattacks on a team that often is not closing gaps, meeting at the blue line, giving up the first 6 feet inside their blue line. That's not going to get it done here.
The idea with north-south is that it doesn't take a brilliant play. You shouldn't get hemmed in your zone. It should just get out and get moving the other way sometimes. So
The game I am looking back to, and the one that I remember is actually in October. October 21st, the first time that Tampa played in Toronto, where they were so unbelievable on all facets of the game in terms of physicality, carrying the puck, dominating, just a great goaltending, every single thing. I want to see that tonight. I would love to just see, it feels like they don't play particularly well against Florida in the regular season or in the playoffs. And I just would, for my mental health, for Leaf Nation's mental health heading towards the playoffs, it would be so nice to see them have a brilliant game tonight.
I will say
it would go a long way. It really would.
It would, but that's when Kip made a really relevant point of that's a very hard way to play 82 times. We watched their success, and that was the first, not criticism, but challenge was, can you do that often?
Can you do it 10 times, though?
You're right. Yeah, I don't know if it's happened 5 times since then where they've looked that dumping, physical, tip, screen, dig sort of hockey.
Okay, who needs to step up and have a real physical presence for the Toronto Maple Leafs in your mind? Can I start?
Yes, please do.
Jake McCabe.
Yeah.
Yep. I think if he can come in tonight with some sandpaper and be that guy on the back end that makes it real tough, and he can go shoulder to shoulder with a lot of guys. I think if he has a really strong, confident game and sets a tone back on the blue line, to me that hopefully bleeds into the lineup. How about you?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think Matthew Nyes is probably a worthwhile note. I did the Canucks game last night, and I know we'll talk about that in the National Hour, but one thing I think we noted was that when things started to go bad for Vancouver, it was who on the Canucks is going to stand up for Quinn Hughes? And you start going through the lineup, and they didn't have a lot of guys. Soucy's gone, Desharnais gone, JT Miller's gone. They don't have a ton of those guys. I started asking that question about the Leafs and in playoffs against a team like Florida. Who's it going to be? Jake McCabe comes up. Matthew Nyes can do it physically, but doesn't a ton. Lawton's going to have to. I like the fourth line right now of Holmberg, Lorentz, and Kampf, but none of those guys do it. So they have to show that they will do it.
My answer is Nyes for me. I thought what he did with White Cloud, right, in Vegas, I thought that was such a wake-up call for me in terms of what he can do in measuring.
If he can have that moment against Vegas and White Cloud, and then come in and have another type of moment like that tonight.
Fight again, though?
I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be a fight, but it has to be it has to include a very large presence of his physicality.
You'd like to see him tell someone to shut up.
Whatever,
like
whatever the case is, if we go back less than 2 years ago when Sam Bennett is driving his head in the ice.
Play on. No penalty or suspension, though. All good.
Stop it for a second, okay? And just look
Play
at
on.
two man on man,
Nothing to see
okay?
here. All good.
Don't
He
look
he
at-
drove his head into the ice. It was a suspension all day.
We're in the school playground right now.
Yeah.
Stop looking for the principal,
Well,
okay?
Principal should have been out and about.
Stop it.
Should have been out. Yeah.
Go back
Yeah.
to that moment, and it's like, I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy coming out of college that's all green now. I've got some mileage. I've got some sandpaper. I've probably got about another 15 pounds.
it's coming back to
Okay.
revisit the bully after high school when you're like, oh, I got bigger and you didn't.
Like how much difference, and we always say hockey players have long memories here. How much of a difference is White Cloud to Nyes to Sam Bennett to Nyes tonight? And I'm not saying he needs to go after him or fight him, but you're not taking advantage of me. You're not driving my head into the ice anymore. Those days are over.
So even
I'd
if,
like to see that kind of message sent.
I just want to see. So that I agree it'd be great, but I do think it's going to be important in these 3 games against Florida, where you can't let them call your bluff. Like they're going to have to punch back. They're going to have to rally around any incidents. They're going to have to show Florida that we're not going to be the Sedins on the other end of the Marchand rabbit punches come playoffs. We're going to be here for each other because they don't have as many guys as willing as Florida probably does, but they do need to show that they'll collectively be there.
Then we continue down the list.
I will clarify,
McCabe.
though. I'm not sure about I want to see Nyes
I know.
fight Bennett.
I don't
know if that's
Listen, doesn't
He's much
have
bigger
to.
than him.
Doesn't
but-
have to.
I know.
But you know what? I saw enough like real anger when he fought White Cloud. That was not a fight to say, hey, my coach told me to do this, so I'm doing it. He went in there with
Chose to do
purpose.
that.
Yeah.
Throughout my career, I know who's fighting for fighting, and I know who's fighting to rip my head off, okay?
Yeah.
Big difference. And the guys with that real anger who want to kill you in that fight, you know. And you know the guys who are just doing it for the sake of doing it. What I saw at an eyes with White Cloud was like real. It was next level stuff for him. I'm not saying that he has to fight Sam Bennett, but if he did, Sammy, and he had a little bit of that piss and vinegar that he had against Vegas, that's next level stuff for Matthew Nyes and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yep.
Be a big help, no doubt, because you go through the lines. There's not many. McMahon's going to have to be a little bit more like that. I'm going to go ahead and call out Steven Lorentz.
Totally.
Steven Lorentz, we don't need this guy. If you're the Maple Leafs, we don't need him to win the Lady Bing. It would be okay if at 6'4" or whatever he is, he got mad at someone.
I'm with you now. It just doesn't stop at Nyes and McCabe. You got to go down the list. McMahon is a big guy too.
Good to see Benoit, as much as you don't love the Superman punch. Good to see him involved in that way. They're going to need guys like that.
Lawton.
Yeah.
Another guy. Capable. In your face type of guy. Just haven't seen it for the first 2 games. And once again, hey, listen, his head's spinning. He's looking down, seeing a crest that he never thought in a million years he'd see.
Yeah.
It plays with you. I've been there.
First home game tonight, by the way. Probably
Right?
a few.
Got family. Who's
Butterflies
coming?
right
It's
now.
so tough to be patient and let the game come to you
Right.
while being aggressive. Everyone's like, be
Where's-
aggressive, but pick your spot.
Where's mom and dad? Where's my cousins? Where's my sister? Like, he's dealing with all of that right now. So that's okay. But he was brought into the lineup because he had the style of play to go up against a team like this. And that's where it's got to start.
Yeah,
here.
if he's going to be an 18 goal guy, you would like to see a little bit of the physical element too. So the fans love him already. Doesn't need to impress him, but just do the right thing.
We got a clip from Craig Berube on Scott Lawton. Clip 5.
I think Lotz is a straight line north-south player. That's, what he's become. I think, coming out of junior, it was probably a little bit differently, but that's what he's become. He needs to go out and play that way. And Max can make plays. We all know that. He's a good passer and, sees the ice extremely well. So with him and Bobby on that line, I feel like if they can get in there and forward check and create loose pucks and get it to Max and get to the net. That's what I tell these guys. Get to the net. That's where the goals are scored. Yes, you get opportunities in a game where there's breakdowns and you'll have opportunities to shoot a puck and score. But a lot of times, these guys, you just take Matthew Nyes. He scored most of his goals 10 feet out from the net and just get to the net. They're big bodies and, Max does a good job of, making plays and getting pucks to the net. So that's what I'm looking for with that line.
Yeah, I'd be talking about that sort of thing too, that you don't need to go out there and score, but you need to set up everyone else to score. Put us in a good spot, play in that end, get on their D.
Slot passes with McMahon in the middle of the ice.
Right. And what I do like about that line is if McMahon does catch and shoot one, he can rip it in.
Feels like it's been a while for him here.
Oh, yeah, he's ice cold. He's got 10 games or something without a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I just want a dirty, greasy game tonight out of the Leafs.
Yeah, they're not built for that. But, Florida without...
Please tell me that they're built a lot better for that than you've seen in 10 years. Just give me that.
They're not.
Oh, God.
Well,
okay.
They're not.
I'm not even going to watch tonight.
They're not like, Luke Shen, Kyle Clifford, Wayne Simmons, whoever you think. They don't have those guys there. But I like their fourth line in a different way.
I just scratched a little bit of the surface on a few of the guys being heavier and bigger and more.
For sure. Also, all of their core four guys. I've always said this. It's for years at Sportsnet. You can't tape grit to the core of the guys who are on the ice the most. They're going to play 25 minutes a night in the playoffs, and they're the guys who have to fight through the screens, the traffic. They're the guys who have to take the hacks and the whacks. So Lawton's 12 minutes isn't going to matter nearly as much as Matthews saying, I'm going to power through that and park in front. And Marner saying, I'm not going to shoot from 45 feet. I'm going to try to get to 25.
Yeah.
That's where the grit has to come from.
So who's Marner and Matthews? Who's got the weight right now to show up?
Who's got the weight?
Yeah, out of the four guys right now, Tavares, Nylander, who has to make a statement tonight?
I think we'd all like to see Matthews back in action. He's shot 1 in the net at 5-on-5 in the last 15 games. His 5-on-5 scoring lowest rates of his career right now. So,
and he has been, I don't know for how long, 10 years,
the best 5-on-5 player in terms of defending and scoring, and not happening. So, whatever the reason, you'd like to see him start to figure it out down the stretch.
Yeah, so some interesting comments today from Berube. He got asked about the Panthers being the defending Stanley Cup champions, and when you were the Stanley Cup champion, do you remember having the target on your back, and was it harder going into different places as a Stanley Cup champion? And his answer to that was very interesting. Clip 4.
Yeah, I guess you always want to beat the team that won last year. I think as a team going in there, I find the Toronto Maple Leafs have a target on their back every night. It seems like we don't get an easy game. It seems like, especially at home here. I mean, these teams all come into Toronto, and a lot of the players are from here and family and all that, so they get gunned up and geared up to play us. I mean, I find it's a tough night every night with the Leafs.
You can't.
It's almost like the team's a byproduct. What they really like is the attention that the media gives them.
Yeah,
that's the juice.
Whatever the cause of it is, it's a reality. It is a true thing. People who have come through here and coached, I think Sheldon Keefe at one point when he was going to Jersey, he said, now I get to see what it's like in the real NHL. Outside of this weird bubble here where everyone comes for their couple playoff games per year.
Follows you to the supermarket.
Yeah, it is a different beast here. And yeah, guys get up. There's no doubt it's different. So, yeah, they have a target, and that's just, you got to be good. They've been very good.
Do you think that contributes to some of their shaky home results? When, they're, for example, they lose to San Jose, that comeback game when a guy from Curtis, Ontario and a guy from Scarborough, Ontario shoots it in the net in a quiet Monday night game on the first game back from a trip. I wonder how many results over the past 10 years, it has been due to that
Keep
reason.
going. Go to the 50s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
What is it? A game a year it cost them, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, they've lost a lot of those games to out-of-conference weekday opponents. Like, that has been a like, I used to call it the Leafs TV games that they would have where they would just lose these crappy teams and be Ontario guys shooting in the net.
The Leafs stunk for a long time.
For sure. There's no question. But even in the Matthews era, I just think it's really funny to have the coach come out there and give a lot of fans confirmation on what they believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Particularly a new coach who's been in other markets, and he's like, this is different. The other teams are playing.
And it's Maurice was talking a little bit too. I listened to Maurice before we came on, and he was talking a little bit about how, like, it was funny when he was doing the scout after they were the year before they actually became champions, where he'd be like, I watch a team's 5 games before ours, and I would see their energy levels go way up when they were playing against us because they knew what kind of game that we were playing, sort of thing. So it's similar probably with the Leafs, where you watch these teams and then they come into Toronto and
everyone's all
St. Louis. The San Jose Sharks played the best game they've played in a month. You're probably a wake up call.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Closing in on almost a week already since the trade deadline. Like, it's just zipping by, isn't it?
We're 4 weeks to playoffs.
Where are you guys now on the Panthers? I think we got a clip from Craig Berube talking about the Panthers. Have we played that yet?
No, we haven't.
Let's go to that, and then we'll discuss where we think the Florida Panthers are to win the division or defend a Stanley Cup.
You know, Florida brings that certain game element. Hard forechecking team. They're in your face the whole game. There's not a lot of room out there. That's what I expect. You know, they're gonna dump pucks in and they're gonna forecheck, and they're tight on you. They don't give you a lot of time and space out there. So it's gonna be a battle. Your wall battles, and we need close puck support, and you got to simplify the game against this team.
Bang on. I was going through some numbers for Florida. 8th best in goals for, 8th best in goals against, like 12th in power play, 8th or whatever in penalty kill. They're good in everything. They're great in nothing, but their ultimate strength lies in that physical nature in a 7-game series where these guys are going to punch you in the mouth and come at you. And so I don't know that you can do that over a season. So evaluating their roster and record, it's really tough for me because they're better than their results in terms of how much you fear them in the playoffs.
As far as replacing a few key people, especially on the blue line, we know Oliver Ekman-Larsson's here now. We watched Montour, I think, put together a 4-point night to beat the Montreal Canadiens last night.
OT winner, 4 seconds.
I don't know what the guy's got, 15 goals already, Montour.
Yeah, he does.
Fastest overtime goal in the history of the National Hockey League.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Great D, Hutson.
Pretty cool. But he is no longer a Florida Panther. We saw them get Seth Jones coming towards the trade deadline. Is this the team to beat right now for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Because
it's not.
you kind of leaned towards Tampa Bay, didn't you, a week ago?
I think Tampa is probably the best team. They've got a bit of a step back here, quieted off. Like, if I gun to my head who I think's better on paper, I'd probably say Tampa. But ultimately, they're the Stanley Cup champions, and I think team to beat and best team are two different things.
The decor thing is fascinating. Like, Ekblad's going to come back in Game 3 of the playoffs, not having played hockey in 6 weeks or something. Who knows what you're going to get from him? And then, their bottom pair is Uvis Balinskis and Nate Schmidt. Kulikov and Mikkola are their second pair. Yes, Forsling and Seth Jones are a great pair.
I like Mikkola.
Yeah, I like him too.
Rangy.
Yeah.
And Forsling is
excellent.
Quietly their best defenseman.
Yeah. I actually think he is.
The greatest waiver claim in the history of the National Hockey League.
Yeah. Forsling, Jones, and Mikkola, pretty good 3D there, but Kulikov, Schmidt, Balinski's I don't know. They're beatable. This is not the Canadian Four Nations team.
I think Bobrovsky had a period to forget as well in Boston Tuesday night, but because he got over the hump last year and won the Stanley Cup, does that give a huge psychological advantage for having a guy like that now on this team still? Or is he hit and miss for you still?
He's still a guy who could really be terrible. He's high ceiling, low floor, don't know what you're going to get. And in playoffs, you kind of roll that dice and, hope you roll hot at the craps table for a while, but he can roll snake eyes. So it's scary if you're Florida leaning on that.
Yeah.
They did go out and get Kakinen and Vanacek, two goalies, just in case.
I mean, it's three years here now where his playoff numbers have been good, right? Like 21, 22, 9-11, 22, 23, 9-15. Last year when they won the Cup, 9-06. Before that, it was an absolute adventure, but he really has dialed in come playoff time. And you look back to the time the Leafs played them in the second round. I think it was that game 2 where they lost 2-1 or 3-2. It was a really close game, and he was unbelievable. He steals that game. He was really good in that series. So, yeah, these are flip switch to me.
You mentioned
flip.
Switch flip,
Yeah.
You mentioned Ekblad maybe coming back after 6 weeks and maybe feeling rather refreshed. There's Tkachuk that has the potential to be very fresh, and then there's Marchand, who some believe that could play in 2 weeks.
Is that right?
But there's another guy resting as well.
Surprised he didn't push it, so we got to talk to the media for 15 minutes today. It's his favorite thing. He's going to be in media when he quits.
I will say,
all he wants to do is talk.
These guys who you're saying could be fresh, could be real rusty. Like,
listen.
If you get Florida
knows?
in round 2 and they both have 5 games under their belt, it stinks. But round 1, it's still a big ask to step in and be yourself.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we return, Ed Jovanovski, former NHL defenseman, almost 1,200 games in the National Hockey League. Wow. Panthers TV analyst. We'll talk Seth Jones, Marchand, Tkachuk, and the Leafs' chances of beating Florida tonight. That and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sam McKee. Joining us now, Panther TV analyst, former NHL player of over 1,100 games, Ed Jovanovski, joining us. Jovo, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, no problem, Kyper. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're looking forward to tonight's game, and based on everything that we saw going into the trade deadline last week, 2 teams that have aspirations of going deep in the playoffs again. Were you surprised, or was the feeling all season long that Florida just was not satisfied with a cup last year, that they were always committed to try to put together back-to-back championships?
Well, I think when you look at this team right before the trade deadline, they were playing really good hockey. And I think, as a team, you recognize, how can we reward these guys, to add where we think we have a little bit of a deficiency. And obviously one of those areas where they felt they can improve is on the back end. Big acquisition prior to that is bringing Seth Jones in. I think the Nico Sturm trade, is obviously one of those sleeper ones. I think just watching him a couple games, really, really smart hockey player. And with that fourth line now, with Greer and Nosek, is pretty good makeup there. And obviously adding Marchie, I think, kind of speaks for itself. You're bringing that experience, cup winner, a competitor, and where he slots in, that would be kind of the next kind of story. But overall, I think the team is really satisfied where they're at, especially when these guys come back.
Yeah, just on that, before we get into maybe Seth Jones, but just Aaron Ekblad and his 20-game suspension for PED program violation here, and I take it for face value that he tried to take something to help him recover from injury. I'm asking you, Jovo, are you surprised that it doesn't happen more often with the guys, the way they get beat up over the course of a season, on how easy it is to slip up on something as simple as a banned substance?
Right, and that's how quick and you heard Aaron's comments that was really shocked. But accept responsibility. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's nothing that I'm telling you that you haven't heard. You're responsible for what goes in your body. And I think, anytime there's something in question, I mean, you just ask. But it's, Monday morning quarterback and it's done. And but I think the guys around the league understand that. It's obviously something I don't know how they're doing it now, but when I was around, you're given that in training camp, and just the message is basically watch what you put in your mouth or in your body. And it's just unfortunate. He's such a good kid, and they're gonna miss him. He was playing great hockey. He was quarterback in the power play. Obviously, with him and Forsling getting a lot of those minutes against top lines and just doing a remarkable job at both ends of the ice. So it's a loss, but it's something that you look back on, you learn from, and it's probably a lesson around the league as well.
Jova, how do you feel like the absences of Ekblad, Tkachuk, and Marchand affects this team's odds of having playoff success?
I don't know if it affects it more. I think when you look at this group, I mean, you're hoping that at some point they're all kind of back in the fold, and Marchie's a couple weeks away. Eki is what it is, kind of where the games fall, and Matthew is kind of unknown. Hopefully we see him right at the start of the playoffs. I think when you look at this group, they're so deep, and I think with these remaining 17 games or wherever it is, I think they're going to hold it tight together and really kind of show their depth moving forward. And for whatever they have going into the playoffs, they're an experienced team, and I think a little bit of adversity can go a long way. I can't really say right now, guys, that this is going to have too much effect on them.
Jovo, a lot of people up here regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs feel like they need to win the division here. They really do want to find
funny, we think that too down here.
Yeah.
Nah, you're fine. You guys can finish second.
That was my question to you. How hard is Florida pushing now to avoid Tampa Bay or the Leafs?
Right, a good team's going to go down, early on if you look at that scenario. Absolutely, I think it's right there. You look at the standings. Obviously, we know what's at bay. With Toronto, with the games remaining against each other, how important these games really are. But absolutely, I don't know if there's one person that's come out and said, yeah, winning the division is number one priority. I think the Panthers are comfortable playing whomever, but absolutely to get an opportunity to finish one and face a wild card team. Not saying that you're just going to rip through a wild card team. We know how this game is, but I think winning the division, there's definitely some importance to that.
Yeah, it seems like it should be a big deal to a lot of people involved. So how confident are you that Bobrovsky can continue this run of getting hot in the playoffs? He's been very good in the postseason for, I think Sam was saying, 3 of the last 4 years. He's been red hot in postseason hockey.
Well, I don't think you're worried too much about Bob. I think just the way he prepares and knowing what's at stake. He's your number one guy, right? And I think he's so committed on helping this team win each and every night. I mean, a little bit of a setback last game, there in Boston, a couple grade A opportunities that, many goaltender is going to stop, but he's been excellent and he's been dialed in. He didn't let up a goal, in a long while there. So I think it's, not only his play guys, but the defensive, awareness that this team has played with in the last, for a month or so now, really stifling teams. And it's so evident up there because you can just see nullifying plays in the neutral zone, not really giving a team an opportunity to spend any extended time in the offensive zone, and they're attacking very quickly. So, this stretch of hockey for the Panthers has been really good. You can throw a last game, like I said, but overall, everyone's pleased with the way things are going right now.
You're listening to Ed Jovanovski, Panthers analyst, as we prepare for Florida-Toronto tonight. So I'm not sure how much you paid attention last week around here in Toronto on the Mitch Marner story, but Jovo, it was a bit of a gong show in the last week. And I'm just wondering, a similar scenario where you've got a very good player in Florida heading towards unrestricted free agency. And how has that been played out in Florida with Sam Bennett? A little less distraction, I'm sure, in the last week and a half, too.
Yeah, everyone likes to beat this one up a lot. This is a question I seem to get a lot about Sam Bennett. And, I think the situation, obviously, the play speaks for itself. He's a very valuable player, to the Florida Panthers. And I think moving forward, I think when you look at two situations, depending where, the cap numbers are and who you're getting done, there's, it works both ways, right? I think if you find a fair agreement between, team and player, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Sam Bennett, but I would imagine that he loves it down here. He's had a lot of success down here. So I think his number one priority would be staying in Florida. You have the ability as a player to test free agency, and whether he gets to that point or not, I don't know. I know Bill Zito is a very smart man. I think they all do their due diligence on kind of where they feel players should slot in. And I think that's kind of how this situation probably will play out. A lot of players in today's game, or even in the past, you work to a point to get to free agency, and no one's holding anything against anyone to kind of test the market and to see where it falls. But you've had success on a team, and you just like to see, hopefully, that Sam Bennett can remain a Florida Panther.
Mm-hmm. So, new addition there in Seth Jones. While we're talking about player movement, how has Jones fit in on the back end?
Well, he's been good, guys. I mean, he's simple, letting the puck, do the work, getting back quick. He's a good, move over the puck, gets back hard. He can elude that forecheck and make that play, and that's where the skill comes in. Not only with his size, which covers a lot of ice in that defensive zone, but he has the ability to exit that puck and get going on the offense quickly. And there's a couple spurts there, too, in these handful of games that he has played, where he showed that, his shot and his offensive ability to create is there. So that's a big pickup for the Panthers. You got him for term as well. He's been a great fit in, and right now, obviously, handling that number one pair with Forsling. When you look at Ekblad and Jones, both right-handed shots kind of have that similar build and kind of do a lot of the same things. So I think the adjustment for Forsling is going to be pretty good, but he's certainly been a guy that's noticeable out there, especially in the defensive zone, how he can defend.
As far as the bottom six is concerned in Florida, are we going to be talking about Sturm and Nosek in a month or 2 months going, those were quietly good pickups?
Yeah, I that's what I said earlier on. Just watching, Sturm, who's won a cup. He's got, I don't know exactly, roughly 400 games in the league. So he's a real headsy player out there. You can see in his work ethic, he's got size. He can really, with that line, which has been evident with Greer and Nosek, is the way that they get in on the forecheck and turn over pucks and do that. But we all know in this league, there's always that third and fourth line guy in the playoffs that if a team has a nice run, that is really imperative for the team. And I think when you look at the third line on the group with Lustrine and Lundell and Bohlquist, now you're not even putting Marchie kind of, where is he slotting in on all this? So I think these bottom six is built in a way where you're going to have a long playoff run.
Joe, have a great night calling the game, man. Really appreciate your time on our show.
All right, guys, enjoy the game. Should be a good one.
Thanks, Joe.
And if I look at the Leafs bottom line with Holmberg, Kampf, and Lorenz, like they're going to have to start having some big games, whatever, 12 minutes, 11. It's got to feel like they're playing 20.
You can play them. And they can hit, and they can control the play. I would love to let them play together for 5-10 games, check the numbers. Are they controlling some play? I do think they can do that. Then it's just, what's the third line do? You know, the old McMahon, Domi, Lawton line. What's your thing? What do you do? Score a little?
Be a little bit rude and score a bit.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's it.
I would love that. Give us one goal every other game.
And grind. Just
forecheck.
Be rude.
tick people off.
Scrums. Don't get scored on.
Few dirty gloves in the face.
If they can end a playoff series +1 at 5-on-5 and,
Hooray!
and annoy people,
Yeah.
I trust that the top 6 can outplay their lines, their matchup, whatever it is.
The one, Holmberg, I do like that he went into the top 6 and looked good and has that confidence to feel like I'm a good player. I'm a top 6 guy that I've put down on the fourth line now. And I think he's been noticeably good since the Four Nations break.
He's a guy that
He
can
carries
put
the
it
puck.
on his stick
Yeah.
and then drive to the net and have guys climbing his back to try to
To be
stop
a
him.
fire hydrant. And then also, yes, he got up there, got that experience, handled the puck, and looked good. He also can't look at the lineup and go, well, I should be up there. And it felt like in past years there were some fourth liners who kind of felt they should be up there.
Although it is Aaron Ekblad in the top 6 again, and I'm just like, we're doing this again.
The other statement that could be made tonight, Stolar's planting the seed that I'm going to see you again, boys, and I've got your number now.
Yeah.
That can happen tonight too.
That would be really good. And I definitely think he can do that. And just, you don't want the Leafs goaltenders to fall off their game at all, right? Because they've been so good all season long. But it will be fun going into playoffs to compare the Leafs lineup to last year. Because last year, the third line for the Leafs was Robertson, Yarncroc, McMahon. Like something not great. I forget exactly what it was, but
That can't be it.
no, it can't.
I can't remember anything.
I'm
Can we Google that? How do we do that?
Robertson, Holmberg, Yarncroc.
No.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Domi played with Matthews and
So who was in the middle?
Holmberg was their centerman on the third line last year. So
Yeah.
I'll take him on fourth line wing.
Yes.
Feels a little bit.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Good job.
How do you feel about Nick Robertson sitting out 3 straight here or whatever? It's been particularly when he said he wasn't pulled out for a bad play.
You're playing against the heaviest, meanest team in the league.
Yeah.
Okay? We saw this a while ago that there'll be opportunities hopefully for him down the road here that he can get in, get hot, just be one of those spark plugs, an energy guy. But on paper, it's not a good matchup for him.
What do you think his offseason contract negotiation is going to look like? He almost held out this past year.
No, but it wasn't about money. It was about
it
was
all right.
It was about opportunity. It was not. It had
No, is that right?
nothing to do with money.
He just wanted more.
But let me go somewhere I can play.
Okay, well, how about next year and this summer? What's going to change for him?
Okay.
No, he's an RFA.
With
correct.
every other topic of discussion.
All right.
What does the end of the year look like? Did we win in the first round? Did we lose in the first round?
Yeah.
Did the team go to the third round so Nick can go in there and said, hey, we went to the third round. I played 10 games in the playoffs and, let's go. Let's giddy up.
Fair enough.
That's from here on in. Just win, baby. Just win.
Al Davis Show.
All right. Just warming up here as we go national next. PJ Stock.
Oh, God. Do we have to figure out what's been going on with the Habs?
No,
How did you nail him down?
I told him that our show sucked since he's been on, and that stroked his ego a little, and now he's good to go.
That's all it takes. PJ Stock, former National Hockey Leaguer, Hockey Night in Canada. It's coming up next. We'll discuss Montreal, who are right in the thick of things when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Welcome back into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. And Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in PJ Stock. Been a while, but every time we call him, he's like, I'm conditioning my hair, sorting out my sock drawer.
It's busy.
Yeah, he's busy.
I'll predict what he'll say, though.
Okay.
He'll be like, why haven't you called me in so long? I know what's going to happen.
Before we get to him, great job on the telecast last night. We
sir.
certainly talked about how big of a game it was between the Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames. Ended up being a 4-3 win in Vancouver, which is absolutely huge for them.
Sorry, I thought you were finishing off. Went to play hockey last night with a few of the boys at Etobicoke Canlan after the rink, and we were watching the game, having a beer or two, some nachos after. I got to tell you, the CGI got the boys talking.
Oh,
With
yeah.
you guys sitting in the bleachers there before the pregame?
With the Lego boots?
Oh, yeah, it really had everybody talking.
Yeah,
They're
you
like,
guys
"What?
don't like each other. Like you're like
You can't sit together in the
15
crowd?"
feet all apart.
You know how it is, though, when you do that green screen stuff? Like, the spacing is weird. Like, I'm often like, when we do our stand-ups, I'm like shoulder to shoulder with DA. You're on the
Yeah.
other. But on screen, it looks normal.
You know what? It's weird. They don't check on you. Like, maybe I don't want to be in a shot like that. Like, you don't even know. Like, they could put you anywhere
It's a good
doing
point.
anything, and you don't know about it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not the CGI guy, but I got the tour of over there a little while ago, and I was blown away by all the stuff they can do. It's incredible technology.
It
It
is.
looked really cool.
It's
so,
very cool,
anyways,
yeah.
They could put you in the middle of a pasture with cows.
Yeah.
they can do whatever they want, buddy.
The checks keep clearing, man. I don't know.
Suspension last night, hit to the head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Connor Zary or Zary. And I know I'm scared because we didn't get
We had an
Calgary
off-air
right.
fight about how to pronounce it. Zary.
Zary.
Connor Zary.
Connor Zary feels way more natural.
It's
Saying
that sounds American to me.
Connor Zary. Connor Zary? You have to, like, go up. Connor Zary.
Regardless, he's
Anyways.
suspended for 2 games.
Yeah.
I watched last night. You were like, did anybody see that?
Yeah. It was greasy.
And everybody's like, nah, I'm fine with it. It's nothing. It's a
It was-
nothing. It's a nothing burger.
It's like some of these times you can be like, well, at the last second this happened. It was unintentional. It was whatever. It's like, no, he like greased a dude with his elbow in the back of the head, like clearly on purpose. Bad hit. So, yeah, you get games for that.
And a bad point lost for Calgary, and now you lose this guy for a couple of games. Window little open, cracked.
Yeah, the most disappointing part from a Flames perspective is they controlled a lot of the game. Kadri, Hubert, or Coronado were very good. It it felt like it was their night, and then it was like they went in intermission up 3-2, and they were like, just hang on. And it was like, one thing you know about these sort of games, you got to keep playing. Like, you can't back into playoffs. You need to keep playing. And Vancouver outshot them 16-3 in the third period, or at least down the stretch.
Yeah.
And, with all the talent they have in Vancouver, someone's going to shoot one in at some point you play like that.
2 big takeaways from that game. Number 1, Quinn Hughes helps.
What a freak.
Quite good. Helpful.
Very reassuring seeing him, first of all, out there, but then half the game, right?
Played 30 minutes.
And did you find at times he was protecting himself a little bit, or free and clear for you, just say whatever he was dealing with hopefully is well past him?
It was funny because the bursts are there where he can do all the stuff that makes him Quinn Hughes. He had tons of great touches and made tons of great plays. So you're like, okay, he's still Quinn Hughes. He's still controlling the play. But there's definitely moments where, okay, it's a little labored, a little protecting. And like Lomberg took a penalty on him, and it's a little cross check that's kind of at the oblique at the side, and that, bothered him a little bit. But again, Lomberg took the shot at Hughes. Zary took the shot at Pettersson. Lomberg took a shot at Roenick. He pushed someone into the goalie. Like, Calgary took it to Vancouver physically. In Vancouver, yes, they end up with the win. It did feel like they were kind of like, we can't do anything about that. Unless Joshua does something, we're just going to kind of go about it.
Last night didn't change your mind too much on Calgary being a team that should
I like
finish ahead of Vancouver at this point.
I do think so. Like, they play structured, they play hard, the vibes are good. Vancouver still, the D zone is really a mess to me. They're the Quinn Hughes team this year. He is going to drag them into playoffs.
Connor
If they
Garland
get
too is
good player.
he like that when he scored there on the shootout. and the sell he did, and he's looking into the crowd. He's the type of guy you want to jump off the bench and cross-check in the face. He is a hateable guy if you're playing against
That's
him.
good.
But if you're
Yo,
worried,
it's great.
If
It's
you
great.
worry about your team not caring, not trying, he is all in
No,
every game.
I think the emotion that we saw, even with Petey's goal, right, where it's like we know where we've been the last little while, and it's been really ugly.
Can they use that as a transition, as a jumping off point of like, come back against a direct opponent? We get the 2 points on the road, 3 games in 4 nights. Like, you could see the Canucks saying, hey, we still have a shot here. We can do this. So that could
Us
be
against the world.
Yeah.
That's the mentality that I think Vancouver needs now moving
I will
forward.
say it's crazy though. Like, Brock Besser didn't know he played last night. Like, actively looking for him. Pedersen pulls it together late, but pretty quiet otherwise. Yeah, it's just a weird year for the Canucks. But yes, it's not too late to find them.
I wonder, like, the emotional roller coaster maybe Brock might have been on in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and if it's affected him. And I know people are sitting there going, hey, play, and you're making a lot of money, and put the puck in the net like you're supposed to. And I get all that, but there's still that human element of a guy that maybe is going, how am I still here?
Yeah. He didn't think he'd still be there. You don't.
I'm telling you, it's just over my career watching guys and the way they act around trade deadline. Scott Lawton puts out a picture, right, of
The Last Supper.
the Last Supper. Like, guys, it's all guys talked about the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it is that human element is very real, and that's why often at home, when you'd like to see a team improve 5%, just get a little bit better, sometimes I think teams are like, is it worth upsetting the dressing room to get a few percent better?
And 2 things again here. I got a fine for not only leaving the Leafs jersey out for the National Hour, but also talking about the Leafs because the Leafs PR just said that Chris Tanev has been activated off the IR.
He's in.
He's probably playing tonight.
All right.
So there you go.
That'll
I
be
think I
fascinating.
think we're trending towards PJ too.
So we're going to get Peach, the Montreal Canadiens down 2-0 with a triumphant comeback, only to end up losing it in heartbreaking fashion. But they are now 1 point out of a playoff spot with 17 games to go.
Looks really good being just 1 point out, if I'm not mistaken. They're staring at 17 games left to go. They're really in a spot where they thought that they wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Let's find out.
Let's find out how good with PJ Stock, former NHLer, including your Montreal Canadiens. Buddy, where you been? Where have you been?
Obviously, you guys are a little bit struggling right now. Obviously, no more trades to talk about now and only talk about hockey. So your ratings dipped a little. And you guys went into your bag of tricks and you're like, okay, what do we do? They put Ryan Reeves on waivers and you guys are done about
Huge
that.
story.
What else could
Huge story.
Yeah, well, we talked about that a while ago and you guys were all against me about that. And then what could we do? So I waited. And I knew the text. Then I knew what was going to come.
And in the meantime,
how about the Habs being that close right now?
well, success, right? It's in or out of the playoffs won't matter. It's a success.
So, actually, I don't actually have it in front of me right now because I comb my hair for you guys. So I was upstairs putting some VO5 in my hair and I didn't actually look at the. It's a good angle.
You are looking good, though. You are looking
It's
good,
feathery today.
right?
Yeah. What's the difference between the Habs, and the Leafs right now? And I looked at it before. I know how many points are out of everything. I've only been looking at the bottom. I haven't been looking about the top of like how far they are from the top.
12 points.
And it's 12. Thank you. When you think of these two teams, and we just do it because obviously I know you guys are in Chino and I like kicking you guys in the shin every now and then. And you think of who they have, and you think of the picks that they just they just went up to Rantanen. I like what they did at the deadline, but wish they did a little bit more. The names they have, and you think of the Montreal Canadiens. That's almost 1 win per month separating these two teams. So the Canadiens, as much as they've been in our heads and in mine, a basement dweller, and this is what they are, and they're part of the process, and it's they're going to be bad again this year. They're 1 win a month away from being the Toronto Maple Leafs, so they deserve a ton of respect. I think for where they are, for what people they have in place, and where they are on their trajectory of this, I don't want to call it rebuilding, retooling, whatever term we use now. So in Montreal now, people are super excited. And they've been playing some great hockey. And coming out of the break, they're one of the hottest teams in the league. They don't have a Matthews, don't have a Marner, don't have a Nylander, don't have a Tavares. Suzuki can be a Tavares, but it's fun hockey in Montreal right now. So thanks, guys, for struggling and needing to get your ratings back up, but I'm here for you.
Well, it's been really nice. Go ahead, Kip.
I was just going to say, so they are streaky, though. They can go and win 3 or 4 or 5 in a row. And now, your 1 win a month story is looking at 3 out of 4 losses, and albeit a couple in overtime. But so how critical are Florida, Ottawa, and the Islanders coming up here? Is this still make or break time here?
Well, first off, I love the vests you guys are both wearing. I don't know if it's like the look you're going with today, but it's
it's shocking that him and I haven't talked about it.
Yeah, you guys are like a couple of canoers that are just excited
to be clear, mine's a one piece. This is not actually a separate vest.
I know they're both one piece. They do. I know.
No, his isn't.
Yeah, you look good, Barney. You always look good. You know that. But yeah, you guys, it's cute the way you guys are dressing. It's really cute.
We're catalog guys right now.
I got my Sam Roberts.
Yes, you do.
And it's Sammy's the best. So, sorry, where were we going with that?
Schedule.
Yeah, schedule. So the schedule problem, the worst thing for the Montreal Canadiens right now is we're on this West Coast swing, and they're playing all these West Coast teams. So, like last night, they lose to Seattle, whatever the score was, 5-4 at the end of the game, I think. It's a 3-point game, but it doesn't matter because they lost. It's a West Coast team. They have to have those 3-point games or have to be involved in games in the East. So it really sucks because they're, Columbus is playing tonight, Ottawa's playing tonight, and they're playing teams in their conference where, they can get 3-point games and a 2-1, or both teams could get points and gradually move up the standings together. And that's where it's a little harder on the Canadiens right now playing out West. Again, I love what Kent Hughes didn't do at the trade deadline. I actually thought he'd sell all of his pieces because of. Sorry, guys, the sun's coming in off my. It's beautiful in Quebec right now. We have some sun coming through my blinds here. So, what he didn't do, because on their plan or their trajectory of where they're going, they have to start playing some games that are meaningful. And as both of you guys know how important it is to the development of young players, I know they made that cup run in the craziness of times, and there's no people in the stands, and I count those games, but I kind of don't. This is important for a lot of the development for a lot of these young guys. So I don't know the games coming up, how much they mean standing wise, whether they make the playoffs, but the process that they're going through right now is the most important thing, because they're not going anywhere this year. We all agree Leafs are better, Florida's better, Tampa's better, Carolina's better, everyone's better. But all these games that have meaning for them is really important. Them losing last night and being upset about it is great. And that's what's cool about following the Canadiens right now, because it's part of this process, which is important. I think next year is a year where they have to be in the hunt.
And in the process of, turning this whole ship around to being a Stanley Cup contender, you want the young guys in games that matter. These games matter. So Lane Hutson is getting real opportunity. Yeah. Is he the Calder Trophy favorite? Is he the next Quinn Hughes?
Before you go to that,
man. Could he have stepped in front of Brandon Montour?
Yes, just the 3-on-3 goal that became the fastest one in history, right?
But both teams are dumb. Both teams are dumb. both teams could have done the exact same thing. I don't understand why you have Suzuki took the face off. You're both up against.
It was Chandler Stevenson that pushed it up towards Montour.
He pushed it Montour, right, and Hutson's on him. I'll come back to the rookie race in a second, but why are you 3 guys up against 3 guys? Like, that is, have one guy just back a couple of feet just in case your crazy plan doesn't work. It's so important for the Canadiens, as we talk about getting to these games, to not lose points. You want to get them, but you don't want to lose it. And last night, that ridiculousness in overtime, they lost an important point. They could have lost that faceoff and still regained the puck, or delayed the process and try and won it in the second or third or fourth, whatever. I don't know who to blame on that play, but
I watched
Hutson. It's Hudson's guy. I know. I watched it.
I watched it 3 or 4 times. I would have gone to my death arguing that Montour jumped it and it should have been blown down offside.
I agree he jumped it. But Kyper, you and I, if you're not, what do you think I'm doing? I'm pushing it. You're telling your winger to jump. I'm pushing it forward. I'm tying up my guy. You're tying up your guy. I'm pushing it to you. Worst case scenario, we're swiveling this way, right? We're coming back. So at the end of the day, it's a huge lost point.
I'm chopping him like a cherry tree before he blows by me like that.
But so back to Hutson.
Yeah. Big picture.
Quinn Hughes. Is he Quinn Hughes?
He's not Quinn Hughes until he gets a partner. And Jaden Struble, for a lot of people that don't know him, Jaden Struble's kid coming out of college university, stepped in last year, had some great moments, having another good year, but he's a kind of a depth guy, and he's been asked to play with Lane Hutson, and he's been amazing. Like, you know why? Because we don't talk about him. You know, he doesn't make the mistake. Every year he wins almost every physical test that the Montreal Canadiens have. He's a hard worker, just a great kid, but nothing flashy about him. And he's been asked, he sat out like the first half of the season, and they throw him in to play with this guy who's a gunslinger, like a Quinn Hughes, like Hudson's all over the ice. And he was able to do that at Boston University because he had the best center in the world as the best goalie, he was so surrounded by so many great players that you're able to cheat a lot more because you can already make up for the mistakes that you might make with your cheating. I think he's learning all that during this process. I still think what he can do offensively, he can push that. And I think he's just going to learn so much more defensively. And to Jaden, and I'm not saying it's going to be Jaden, but once he gets a partner that can learn to play with him, I think he's going to take that next step. When to jump, when not to jump, when to cheat, physically, he's not a big guy. So how to a guy in a corner, and he knows so much of that already. But as you guys both know, the more reps you have, the more experience you get, and you're just going to be that much better. But, you know, when it comes to the Rookie of the Year, Celebrini's been amazing as an 18-year-old doing what he's doing in San Jose with really nothing around him. I think you have to give it to Wolf if they sneak into the playoffs. And that's kind of my thought. But I know a lot of our awards in our league are really, you know, if you don't get in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter. Right. But I get to watch Hutson on a every night, and he is a guy that is. I didn't think he'd start off with this team, and he is. Suzuki's having an amazing year, and a lot of people will say Suzuki's the MVP. A lot of people will, you know, he wins the 3-star Molson Cup every month, pretty much. But you know, you got Caulfield on his wing, and Slafkovsky's really hot lately. But Hutson has changed the confidence of this team. And I think that is something that it's hard that people don't look and understand it and don't watch him enough. This team has a swagger. And when he's on the ice, everyone's excited. I know Hughes last night played almost 3:30 of overtime because he can do things that other people can't do. Maybe Hutson will get to that with being able to stay out that long. But Hutson right now, what he can do with the limited time being in the league has been uber impressive.
You mentioned
Super uber impressive.
Slafkovský, who's got 7 points, I think, in his last 5 games. A really good stretch of production here. That always hasn't been the case. We saw a power type of goal against Seattle for him. If this guy ends up with 20 goals and 45, 50 points, is that enough to convince everybody he's still on his trajectory to be a true power forward?
It doesn't, because everyone expects more, because we're in Montreal, you're in Toronto, and you know how it is. How Nylander's first years are, or Tavares' first years. Well, not Tavares, but he's coming from the Islanders. But Matthews, we just, especially cities, we just expect more. You're the first over in the world. You should have 900 goals by now. What's going on? The kid's 20. And they put it up on the screen last night. He's breaking every rookie record to play for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, it's amazing. Like, he's the fastest, one of the fastest to get. Like, he just passed Henri Richard. Henri Richard, what is it, 11 Stanley Cups? He's passing all these people at the speed at which to getting to these goals. Let's say 20 goals, 100 points, whatever. This last night was 100 points. And don't forget, he missed half the season with a bad leg. He's coming from Europe. There's all these things that are different, but he's been. I don't think he's anywhere near his potential. I have the opportunity to meet a couple of the guys and speak to some of them, and the one thing I will say about him, and he'd probably like to hear me say this, but not like to hear me say this, but he's just too nice. Right. Like, he's a good kid, and I say he's a kid because he's 20. You forget he's 20 years old. I can't speak in front of, like, I'm mumbling on the radio right now, and we do this for a living. We put a mic in his face every night. He's not from this country. He's not with his family, and they ask him about every play, and he just wants to go have fun. And he's just a kid, and here he is, just a nice kid. He's happy. He likes hockey, and it's just, once he realizes that it's a job, and that you have something that you can do that can influence every game, every shift, every night with your physicality, with your body, being physical and being mean and doing all things that you really aren't, but the other people don't know what you're really like, so it can intimidate everybody else and influence how the game and your shifts go. I think he's going to just go like this. He's not the fastest skater out of the gate, but you saw his goal last night against Seattle. Once he gets moving, he's got the shot. He's got the stick length to separate from a defender. The defender's on me. I can go outside him and still get a shot off. He's going to be special. Once we teach him, once he learns to dominate the game physically, I'm not saying John Leclerc. I'm saying a more silky-ish John Leclerc. Mm-hmm. He's so big. He's so strong. Big. But he's so nice. He does like Kyper. Imagine if he had
devastating criticism.
Yeah, imagine if he had some of your piss and vinegar, Kyper, from when you played. Right, a little bit of how
yours, especially yours.
No, but
unfortunately, he got mine.
They're not Justin Bourne's.
So we're like, if he can just, you don't, and I'm not saying fighting. Fighting is like the end result of something that happened. But last night he gets into, and I forget who we got into it last night, but he gets on a physical altercation. And really, he could end that in 1 second by just like bump. But he's kind of like wrestling this way and doesn't want to fight and it's just, you're 6'4", 235, and he's jacked. If he understood how to physically take a guy and just like, boom, don't mess with me because I will break you. But in reality, he will never do that.
We had
but
this,
if he does it,
we had this conversation with in Toronto with Matthew Nyes. They have no idea how big and strong they are.
Is it crazy, Kyper? Totally. Like,
Peach, does that drive you nuts?
Well,
considering what you did with
it just goes like we wish we were like that.
Well, that's what I mean.
Right?
Like I'm saying, like Peach, what are you, 5'10"? I don't even know. Like does it you see someone like that? You went toe to toe with the toughest guys, and you're like, it would be so easy for you.
Well, it's different. Like they don't, because they're young too. I also think like I would have had a guy like Nick that I would have played with, and Nick would have been like, "Hey, do this, maybe do this, or lean on this guy's stick, or go to the front of the net and put your arm up." Or we don't have that in the game anymore. So I think that's one of the things we miss. Those. I had Rick Tocchet. I had Kevin Stevens. Like I had Craig Berube. I played with so many guys that were so like we'd go to lunch. And guys in Toronto don't understand that Craig Berube's, might not be the flashiest thing with the power, but when you get the playoff time, and you guys, as Kyper knows, this guy is going to have these guys go through walls. Hopefully they go through walls. Not all these guys understand the sacrifice that have to be made. But some of these bigger guys, and that's why I said, like, they're nice. They're different. We grew up at a different time. Like, we grew up at a different time where our parents yelled at us a different way. Our teachers yelled at us a different way. We were built differently. And I don't want to say we were tougher because that's not what we are. But I think mentally we had a little bit more jam to us. And I think some of these guys have it. You just have to unleash it because they haven't had it throughout a lot of the processes of their life. So once he gets it, and Knives and Matthews, if he had Kyper, imagine if he had some. I don't want to swear because I always use a term. It's when I talk about. Yes, you said it. When you had some, that's mine. I don't care about losing the puck. You lose it, but that guy's gonna know he's not gonna take it from me again without me leaving a mark. I'm like, those are the things that they have to learn. I don't know who's around them enough to in your head. Slafkovský, back to Slav, drive the net every time. When you don't have the puck, it doesn't matter. Stop in front of the net. And I want to see defenseman try and push you. And when he does, push him back. It might sound like nothing, but the next time that defenseman goes to push you, he's going to think to himself, uh-oh. Like, if he decides to push back, he's way bigger, way stronger, way. So, and that's the same thing with Matthew. If Matthew played with a little, mind you, I love Matthew, but if he had some more jam, and he does have a lot, I'm not saying it, just he can intimidate so many ways the other way teams break out of their zone, so many ways teams, play against him. Played with Joe Thornton for a few years, and the older guys, Billy Guerin, Sean O'Donnell, Donnie Sweeney, the guys would tell him, Joe, you got to take a penalty tonight. And like you got to take you have to take a jam penalty, because everyone picked on Joe because he was 19, 20, 21, 6'3", 215, but too much of a nice guy. So you had to convince Joe. Like, you didn't really have to convince Joe, but Joe, cross check someone tonight. Like, don't be shy. We'll kill the penalty. If you get suspended, we got you. Don't do anything stupid. But everyone in the league has to know you can't push me that much because I'm going to push you back. And that's what is, I think we're missing a little bit of that in the game. Not a McDavid cross-check to the face, but a give me space. And I think when a lot of these younger guys learn a little bit about that, the way how big they are, how strong they are, they can have some amazing careers. I think Slav and Matthew are on that trek.
Based on the Four Nations tournament, it could be turning a little bit back towards that, Peach. But
Peach must have loved that.
So.
We'll have to wait and see. Hey, great job today. Is the sun still in your eyes?
Every day is great.
Is the sun still in your eyes?
No.
Because I was going to say,
sun's always in my eyes.
I was going to say this is the brightest you've ever looked on our show.
You know what? I was wishing I had a vest down here. Because it could have been like,
do you often have a vest within arm's reach?
Yeah, no. I'll be Whoa.
Oh, my gosh. Put us in any Eaton's catalog you want.
That's good gear.
Thanks for doing this, pal.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome, guys. Cheers, guys.
PJ Stock. Don't ever change.
Oh, that's funny.
He's a top few guest for us. So Montreal has a real chance.
Too nice is Never want to hear that.
Withering hockey criticism.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with this team? Because like they've pushed up to the playoffs. You know, they got guys like older guys, Savard and Matheson and Gallagher and Anderson.
Well,
what's next to get them?
The next is
That kid in the cage.
the next is the pressure of that city to say, moving forward, we're not missing the playoffs again for a very long time. And that will mean a much different trade deadline for the Montreal Canadiens next season.
You know, Montreal.
This is the last year. This is the last year they get to play the, hey, we're still learning card.
You know, Brendan Gallagher has 2 more years at 6.5. Anderson has 2 more years at 5.5. I wonder if they would ever consider moving some money out to spend a little bit more.
They would have moved Gallagher's money out by now if they could have, for sure.
But they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 thirds this year, and 2 fourths.
I think forget the trade
9
deadline.
picks in 4 rounds.
He's going to go to the draft and he's going to make moves.
See, this is where you should use all these picks for bodies, live bodies.
Yep.
And, you know, you look at that Demidov.
Yeah, he's lighting it up.
He's 19, and he's got 49 points in 62 games in the KHL.
That's like Ovi stats.
No, Ovi he was in his last year, he had 27 points in 37 games. Like, he's on that similar.
Right.
You don't score a ton in the KHL. I don't really understand the KHL. Like, it's
like the American League. Everyone's like, he scored 20 in the AHL. It's like, that's actually really good.
Yeah, but like for him to have almost 20 goals as a 19-year-old in the KHL is pretty impressive.
Plug your ears for a second. You don't think Montreal?
Oh my!
You don't think Montreal will take a run at Sam Bennett or Mitch Marner?
Yeah, I mean,
all day long.
Everyone with money. So everyone has $7.5 million in newfound cap money this year. All those guys. Everyone suddenly wants to get those guys. It's the best year to be UFA ever.
Not fun for you to Toronto, Montreal, seeing Marner in a
I'm sure
Canadian
the Habs
jersey.
fans would be thrilled about the guy that comes from Toronto that's had 0 success in the playoffs, and they've all crapped on and made fun of for 10 years. Sure, they love that.
Okay, all right.
It's game time, presented by Bet365.
Jumping the gun.
It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So, a few Canadian teams in action tonight. Big one in Toronto. Like I said earlier, Chris Tanev has been activated off the IR. So, playing tonight likely. We'll see how that goes. You can go to the Sportsnet 590 Fans X account and look at what we thought about that decision mere minutes ago. So we'll see how it goes tonight. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, a rare underdog for them tonight. They are plus 115 underdogs on home ice against the Florida Panthers. They're usually pretty close to even money or a big favorite for the Leafs on home ice. So if you like the Leafs tonight, it's a rare chance to get them as an underdog. Florida is minus 135 on the money line. What I'll say, I don't know about the number, but for an anytime goal, at some point here, it's got to start entering the net for Austin Matthews.
Yeah, I'd say it's a good time.
He usually, like when he's in his hot streaks, he's minus money to score. And you look at an Austin Matthews anytime goal tonight pays plus 120, so that's a good number for Austin Matthews. And the other one that I was looking at for player stuff. Carter Verhaeghe loves playing in Toronto. He loves to shoot in the net. Give me a Carter Verhaeghe anytime goal at plus 160 as well.
If Matthews is plus 120, if you bet him back-to-back games and he scores in one of those games, you come out ahead. I think if you do that most of the time, you'll be okay.
And the other Canadian teams in action, Ottawa hosting the Bruins tonight, minus 200 favorites at the Canadian Tire Center. A lot of momentum for them.
Minus 200 over the Bruins?
Yes, sir. And then the Edmonton Oilers are in New Jersey to take on, we'll talk about this a little bit in news and notes, but the injury decimated New Jersey Devils. They are minus 135 favorites in New Jersey. New Jersey's plus 115 on the money line. And I just want to make sure I'm not disrespecting our Jets. They do not play tonight, so I'm not disrespecting our Jets. And that was game time.
No Jets talk.
No, that was game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. And as Sammy just mentioned in our news and notes, a key cog out of the New Jersey Devil lineup. We'll get into that. Plus, Ovechkin's march continues in Los Angeles, California tonight. A lot of talk about so many empty netters. And would you want to see an empty net goal tie or break a record here? I'll get your thoughts after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, 9 games on tap tonight. And? What am I missing?
Nothing.
What's happening?
Oh,
Why are you looking at me like I got an eye on my forehead?
I don't. I thought you were going to do your usual thing coming out of a break where you say that and then you say this hour of.
As a reminder, this hour of Real
There
Kyper
we go.
and Bourne brought to you by Bet365 as we get into NHL news and notes.
And as always, thank you.
I can say it at any point,
For sure.
really.
Whenever Austin buzzes in your ear and says, hey, you forgot to say that.
Yeah, he's in a full panic all the
yeah.
time. They're always in a full panic. They pay.
Yeah.
Bet365 pays. Don't worry. Okay, the check's in the mail.
Yeah. It's
I might say it's the only reason we're doing this show right now.
yeah. So again, thank you. We appreciate. I do use.
A bit of housekeeping.
All
I
right.
forgot. Okay, so this is another Leafs find here in the National Hour. Mentioned Tanev. I've got the Leafs jersey up still.
Yeah.
And here comes the third find.
Day.
But I forgot in the Leafs hour. We do the Leafs line every Friday in our first hour.
Yeah.
So if you're a Leaf fan who's still watching at this point, a reminder that tomorrow we do them. So get them in early because we've had a million over the past few weeks, and we haven't got to them as much because it was Four Nations, trade deadline, all that stuff.
Very busy.
So we really want to lean into it tomorrow. We want to have a good one tomorrow. So call in, and if you're from outside of
Call in
Toronto
and slander the Leafs.
and
That'd be great.
slander the
We'll play
Leafs,
it.
we'd absolutely love that. And slander Borny, slander me, slander Kyper. We love that.
There's
So-
too much of
hate
it on
myself anyway.
social media.
That's not true.
No, not at all.
Why? Oh man, I mean,
It's just you're just feeding the beast.
yeah. Listen,
The
we all
beast
look.
needs to be fed, pal.
We all look at our mentions. It's a little messy sometimes.
Okay, that's fine. We're big boys. We can take it.
Anyways, so that's all I had to say.
Okay. Is there anybody in the league that has worse luck than Dougie Hamilton?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I didn't say the number. As Jake just said to me, it's 416-413-4141. 416-413-4141.
Turn his mic off for the rest.
you're not allowed to talk the rest of the show.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. Is there a corner we can send him to?
Perfect.
Maybe?
I'd get to Subway home early. I'm out.
No. You're fine. You're fine. Just sit there quietly. Okay.
What's up?
Dougie Hamilton.
Uh-huh.
If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have none at all.
I know. It is a real tragedy because the New Jersey Devils, what did they finish last year? 86 points or something like that. They weren't even close to playoffs. This year, new coach, they get healthy. Here they
We've
go.
had Tom Fitzgerald on a couple times,
I'm not an Elon. Ignore that. Sorry.
right?
Trajectory.
Yes. We've had Tom Fitzgerald on a couple times. I really like how aggressive he's been the last little while to get New Jersey to another level. It's kind of, I'm disappointed for him.
For sure. You look at that roster, it is, like I said, it's a shame because you think Carolina's a fairly flawed team. Like that way through the Metro is not the end of the world. It's still, Timo Meier, Hischier, Nason, Halla, Bratt, Palat. They have good players there, that decor. So fun thing about New Jersey, they played one run of hockey this year with 6 healthy D, with their top 6 DL healthy. They set an NHL record 7 straight games with sub 20 shots allowed. And they just don't get to have that team.
Yeah.
So frustrating year for the Devils, but I guess you just kind of got to wait for next year. That's just the way it is.
Oh, you're completely writing them off.
Well, in terms of Stanley Cup aspirations.
Yes. I think that's fair, but they could still make some noise, no?
Well, sure. I mean, you beat Carolina. A couple teams get hurt themselves on the way. You never know what can happen. So, no, I won't write them off yet, but they're in trouble.
All right. Ovechkin. He's going to break the record.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, heard a couple different opinions on Ovechkin and how they want to see the record. Some people maybe not wanting to see it on another empty net goal. Does that matter to you? I'm like,
Doesn't.
he's got a gazillion goals, and if the last 3 happen to break the record because they're empty netters, would anybody really care?
No, Gretzky
10
had a
or
lot of empty netters.
15, but it's not. Do you want it? Do you want to see it on a real goal against a real goalie? Because
Yes.
that's what people are saying.
Of course.
That
They
it would
should
be.
actually.
It would, and they're actually. Some opinions are that Ovechkin would want it against a real goalie on a real call.
I actually think that's going to happen. I could see him not shooting at the empty net or not putting him in those spots or something.
Not a snowball's chance
You think he shoots
that
it?
guy cares if there's a goalie in there or not.
Would you care?
No, I would not
I would either.
care.
You got to get it across the line. You got to. If you want the record, you got to get it. Also,
you're like some people want to tell me that he's going to purposely not shoot it in an empty net.
No.
And then
nothing's a guarantee. You could blow out an ACL the next day.
Go head first in the boards, and now it's like I should have put it in the empty net.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like not a chance. This game's crazy. It's unpredictable. Here today, hurt tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not a chance he would care if it comes on an empty net goal or not.
So 9 games or 9 goals to go, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe the Capitals have 18 games left. That's a goal every other game. 17 games left. Is it happening this year?
Can you?
You're in.
Can you tell Sammy that I was just kind of, being me a little bit?
I had to get invited back.
You
Sorry,
are
I was
invited.
just watching the players here.
You are invited back.
Camilo Villegas leading -6.
Would it matter to you?
Yeah.
Would it matter to you, empty net or not empty net?
Me, like present day me, I take a goal anywhere I could get it. Like I suck at hockey now, so yes, I would take an empty netter. But I think the feeling of shooting it in past a goalie and having it be a moment is way more appealing than just being like a little soft wrister into a net with nobody in it.
The only thing the empty netter is your team is also about to win a game. The
Sure.
vibes are good. You don't down 5-1, you blow one past a goalie.
Part of me thinks he won't have a choice.
But hold on for a second. Hold on. There is a ton of pressure on a team that is playing the Washington Capitals. It would have to be an empty net to tie the score. If it's an empty net when they've already put in an empty net goal, or if it's 6-4 and you still pull the goalie and you give them that goal, I think people will be sitting there going, that's a gift. You actually purposely gave him a goal.
Do you ever see what's the documentary or whatever about the sack record and how someone took a knee on the final play to let someone
Mark
get a sack?
Gastineau.
Yes, and Favre laid down for Strahan, I think, to set the record and take Gastineau's record.
And that's what you don't want if you're the opponent of the Washington Capitals, that you laid down. I don't know what
these are not equal things.
You wanted, no, but it's kind of in the ballpark that you gave them a tap in. You gave them a gimme.
I think to avoid being the team on record who gives it up to him, you may not pull your goalie in that game. You may say, we're just going to play 5-on-5 to try this game up. We're not. I don't want to be that team. I don't want to be in every highlight reel.
I mean, if you're an established goalie, you don't want to be the guy that it gets scored on. But if you're
if you're up for like one game, you're like,
if you're like an AHLer.
But if you're a fringe goalie,
oh my God,
you might want to take that 30 seconds of fame.
And you could probably sell all your gear down the
Yes,
road or
you
something.
might-
You're
you
part of a big moment.
That may be the only moment anybody will ever remember you by.
Maybe go to card expos for like a decade because
you and
of that.
Ovi.
Yeah.
But it is
the guy scored on.
Like you always think those guys are going to be remembered, but like I don't remember who gave up the Barry Bonds or McGuire, any of the big home runs.
Good point.
I know the goalie's name who gave up 10 points to Daryl Sittler.
Who?
Dave Reese.
Okay. I didn't know that.
You think I'd utter his name now from 1976?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the goalie that watched Connor McDavid shoot into the top corner against USA. It was Connor Hellbuck.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. He missed it big time. Wasn't even close.
Well, you could remember.
Jets?
You could also remember him with the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, we'll see. Seen Nathan
That's
McKinnon.
Jets talk.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sure, Conn Smythe.
He could win the Conn Smythe this year.
Yes, definitely. Of course, they're very good.
We did last night on Hot Topic on the broadcast. Which team from the West do you think will be in the Stanley Cup final? And I picked the Jets. The two other gentlemen, Gaz and Kazi, took
No, Oilers.
No Dallas Stars,
Vegas.
no Colorado Avalanche, no Vegas. How tough is the West?
Vegas is my pick.
Really?
Yeah.
And you?
I think I had Vegas, Florida for Stanley Cup final.
Sportsnet stream. Sportsnet stream.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's not ideal.
That's what I think I had when you did those predictions for Sportsnet.ca, didn't you?
Yeah.
They don't ask
I
me.
don't remember.
They don't ask me.
No one
Wow.
ever follows up on that.
They don't ask me. But I just think of Vegas's path because they're going to get the first round matchup against whoever one of the wild card teams is, and they won't be very good. And then, I mean, this is
We throw up the standings. We have the West
This
standings.
is assuming they keep their lead in that division. Then
From
they're going to
top
have
to bottom, the Jets are better than any team right now. Or I mean, Vegas.
The Jets.
They're better than Edmonton from top to bottom.
The Jets have allowed the fewest goals against in the NHL. They have the best goaltender in the NHL, third best in goals for, best power play in the NHL. Like, they go through the numbers. They are kind of tippity top
And
and everything.
if they were a sexier market, everybody would be absolutely all over them.
Oh, yeah.
But
Imagine
it's
they
to
were in
Sammy's
Toronto,
point.
it would be
94
this-
points.
Oh, buddy, they're
and
running away with
they
it.
are a Canadian team, but like they don't drive numbers, and people want Oilers. They want McDavid. That's why two guys on
It's-
your panel picked the Oilers.
It's also harder that they don't have the sexy names because it's like, they're playing great. Why are they so good? And it's like, well, they play really hard, good system hockey, tight, well coached.
Shifley.
Yeah. Oh, and what's he, an 85-point guy? I have no idea where he's
Connor.
at this year, but I can figure that out.
Like-
yeah, like everyone basically says
Great players.
great players like Connor and Leon will pull through an average team, versus the team game. Remains to be seen.
You think of that path for Vegas to get to the conference finals, and it's against they're against the Wild right now if the playoffs were to start.
Mhm.
Maybe a potential waste of 8 days situation there
Yeah.
for the Wild, and then going up against one of the Kings or the Oilers, and to me, they're much better than both those teams this season.
So true.
And then you go and then you're in the conference finals and you're playing against somebody good. It's conference finals, you'd expect that.
Mhm.
But to me, the path is much easier than the Jets' path, where it's like they get a bit of a cupcake in the first round with maybe the Flames or the whoever it is at the bottom,
But then,
and then
it
it's
is Dallas.
it's
or Colorado.
Dallas or Colorado. So tougher second round to
A
me.
lot
for
of
them.
pressure on Hellebuck when it comes to those
Yeah.
series.
Hey, I got a take.
Mm.
I saw another thing today about ranting and talking about a list of can everybody just stop talking about this?
Mhm.
Like, I think we've gotten to the point now where you play for Dallas, you signed a 12-year contract. I think we need to stop throwing stones. Everybody knows, like, it's a bunch of he said, she said. Everybody just
It's
shut
just
up.
gotten beaten up.
And
Let's
it doesn't
move
even
past
feel
it.
like anything really happened. It's
He's like denying who was on the list that he would have potentially. It's like, who
Listen,
cares?
I'm getting messages from
be done
people
with
in
it.
the Oilers. Do you have any idea what the Oilers were going to offer? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's over. It's like
over.
it's just
but hold on. Do you know what were they on?
No, shut up.
I thought it was over, but I would like to know if you have an answer on that.
I don't, and even if I did,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it
Yeah.
because, to Sammy's point, let it go.
It's over.
Let it go.
It is at the best time of the NHL season. Everyone has their team set. We are a month to playoffs. The playoff races are the best they've been that I can remember going back, I don't know, at least 5 years. So every game has some stakes. Tonight, Florida, Toronto, 7 p.m. Going to be the first of,
I know.
potential first round series.
I know we're on in Calgary. I know we're on in Vancouver, but I am rooting for our new golf buddy, Ryan Smith, for his Utahs to get
Oh,
in.
get out
Come
of
on,
here. Listen, I
Utah.
like
we
Ryan
love
Smith, too.
we love Ryan Smith on
an
this show.
invitation to golf out there with
Yeah.
him is enough for me to cheer for
Go
I
you.
gotta believe
Utahs
we
go.
could get an invite to play golf in Calgary if we were looking for it.
Go
We
Utah.
are. We are.
Okay,
We
well,
are.
let the record show.
All right. Our thanks to Ed Jovanovski in our first hour on our Leaf program. And then PJ Stock, always bringing the heat on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. 9 games on tap. Find yours. And we're back tomorrow off the rails Friday with you-know-who to drive it right into the ditch, Mr. Doug McLean. Have a great night, everybody.